All right, everyone. We are back for episode 54 of Stub Luv Live. And tonight, man, we got a really cool topic. I see Papa Jim has joined. Really cool topic that we're gonna be exploring. I see Scott Fouracres in. What's up, Scott? Getting close to the Nationals, Scott. Getting close. Tom Daly in the house. TKD.tickets. So we're going to be talking about presidential first pitch tickets and presidential memorabilia and autographs. I see we've got Ignacio, we got Wheelers, I see we got Signed and Slapped. Let me get David in. Here we go. I love it. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You know, I have to tell you, at my lunch today, I listened to one of your old mail days that you used to do on IG.
Okay.
Um, and you know, I really miss those mail days, David. I really do,
Oh,
because
yeah.
those were fun. But one in particular, yeah, you see, Papa Jim likes the hat. Papa Jim giving us love. So one of the things that I really I remembered an episode, and I found it today,
Okay.
where you got a PSA return of tickets,
Yeah.
and they were mostly first pitch tickets.
Yeah.
And I remember you looking through the box. I remember this. I mean, I saw it today at lunch, but I remember you looking at it and being like, these are so cool. Like, these are so awesome. And PSA did me right on the flip.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this little passion of yours, which is not only presidential first pitch tickets, but presidential autographs and collecting presidential memorabilia.
Yeah. So, I, my main sport love in terms of collecting is actually baseball. And so the foray ultimately then into presidential related stuff kind of came off the back of that. And I, when I first kind of started, I grew up in small town in Arkansas, and we didn't really have a sports team. So I didn't really get into autographs until I had moved to Houston after college, and then started doing some in-person autograph seeking with Patrick Ryan and some other people. So we had a little crew that ran around here doing that. And I ended up, my first presidential autograph I got was a baseball signed by Bill Clinton. And because he had been governor of Arkansas when I lived there, and then when he became president and was, on tour, I guess, for the election, I was able to get to him and get him to autograph a baseball. So that's kind of how my presidential autograph collecting got started. And then, as when I joined Instagram, pandemic timeline, and really, like, Pat and I had been friends that whole time, but we really kind of reconnected again over the memorabilia stuff, and he was really into tickets. And so I started kind of putting one and one together, and was like, a lot of these guys, they have like first pitch tickets. That might be something cool to do. And kind of by that point, I actually had 4 or 5 different presidents on signed baseballs. And so a lot of my collection, I'm always trying to think through, like, what would be a neat display item, or what is something that can kind of go with an autograph to maybe tell a story. And obviously, you ticket guys, you know that so much sometimes of the ticket is telling the story, because looking at the ticket itself, unless you're like a Jeopardy level history buff, you don't necessarily know what it is, and sometimes even the flips don't tell you. And so that kind of got me down the wormhole of investigating, what are the presidential first pitch tickets that are out there? Which presidents threw first pitches? Like, how many do I think I could actually get on autographed baseballs? And that just sort of, it kind of took on a life of its own. And ever since then, I mean, I've been pursuing like literally any and every of the first pitch president tickets I can find. And then it also has got me going down the rabbit hole of like other people that I like, that not necessarily sports people, but sometimes sports people that aren't baseball players, but that threw out first pitches. And as you know, the pursuit of some of those weirdo tickets, it can be fun and frustrating at the same time, and it's what sort of keeps you on the hunt. So
I guess you kind of combine baseball, which is really American.
yes,
You combine opening day of baseball, which everyone likes. I mean, even if
yeah,
you're not a baseball fan, a lot of people are like, oh, we love opening day because of the festivities. You
yeah.
got presidents throwing out the first pitch at opening day. I mean, man,
There's
it's like how
a
much
lot
more?
going on, and it ticks a lot of boxes,
Yeah.
right? And it creates these like great kind of, a lot of them are great stories, but some of it can be even just image based. You go find a picture of each of those presidents throwing out a pitch, and then you're like, here's one of the tickets that goes with it. I've found that people really can respond to that, even if they're not necessarily a diehard sports, or even not necessarily a diehard baseball fan.
So so
So
so let me give everyone, before you start showing stuff, just a little bit of background very quickly. So history, they're saying the practice of a ceremonial first pitch goes back to 1890, where they were talking about Ohio governor, and then he became a future president, William McKinley, threw out the first ball into the diamond, is what it was called, before an opening day game between Toledo and Columbus.
oh wow,
But as it relates to presidential first pitches, it's saying William Howard Taft threw the ceremonial first pitch in 1910 at a Washington Senators opening day game at Griffith Stadium. Now, I don't know if any of those exist. I haven't checked the pop report. I've never seen one. What I've seen, as far as like, maybe you'll show one here, David. I don't know. If you do, I'll be blown away. But the closest that I've come to seeing like anything really, really old, I know that in 1915, I think it's Woodrow Wilson threw out the first pitch at the 1915 World Series Game 2. And that's the first president to attend a World Series game. And at the same time, he threw out the first pitch. So that I have seen a couple of,
yep,
and they do sell for big money, but
yep,
I've never seen the Taft. But then, you get some history here. It seems like most of the presidents have thrown them out. Joe Biden did not throw one out while he was president. Donald Trump has not thrown one out as president. Biden did throw one out as a vice president. Trump has thrown it out as Trump,
yeah,
the entrepreneur, but
yes,
not as president. So, Obama with some pretty cool moments, Ronald Reagan with some pretty cool moments. And then, in my opinion, David, the be all and the end all, and maybe you'll have one to show tonight, maybe not. We've talked about it, but yeah, I won't spoil it. But I mean, look, it's that Bush pitch is
yeah,
terrific. So go ahead, show us what you
yeah.
got. Talk me through some of the
So
stuff. Yeah.
that's like, so great history lesson there. And so as I told you, I thought what we would do is I'd walk down my personal list, always debatable, but I'm going to walk down what I think are the top 10 presidential first pitch tickets that we think are out there.
Okay. Let's do
And
it.
in no particular order, I'll just do it from oldest to newest. So you nailed it. The first ceremonial presidential first pitch that I was aware of was the 1910 opening day of the Senators. And like you, I've never seen one, but I believe that it's probably out there because it was an opening day
Yep.
game. And so the probability that it's out there somewhere, I think, is pretty good. Now, again, like you, I haven't seen it, but that to me, that is the holy grail of President first pitch ticket
Yep.
stubs. Then
Agreed.
next would be the 1915 World Series Game 2. Now, and what's interesting is if you do some Google searching on this, there's some debate of whether Wilson threw the first pitch. But more often than not, people say that he did, but there are others that say he didn't. He was just there. But to me, it's still within the right genre, even if there isn't like a picture. We don't know for sure if he threw the pitch. It was absolutely the first World Series game that any president had attended. So it has some historical significance for that.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Sure.
Next for me would be the 1923 opening day at Yankee Stadium. Warren Harding threw that one. I have seen it. There is actually one on eBay that's listed for like $100,000. So a bit beyond my means. And even if I was rich, I'm not sure that it's worth that much. But if anyone is interested, if you go out there and punch in, Yankee Stadium opening day 1923, you can see a picture of it.
Yeah. So just take a time out real quick before you.
Unless
Not
maybe
to interrupt you.
maybe that's your ticket.
No, it's not. I know who has that ticket, but that's the first ticket to Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
So it's and Ruth hit a home run, so it's a very popular Ruth ticket, and it's called the ticket. It's the ticket to the house that Ruth built. So I don't think it's $100,000 because it's a first pitch, but it's a nice little addition.
Yeah.
But sorry to interrupt.
No, for sure.
And by the way, I'm absolutely, so far, you're nailing this. This is great.
All right. So my next one for me would be the 1937 All-Star Game, Franklin Roosevelt. So that's the first major league All-Star game where a president threw a first pitch, and there's a bunch of pictures of him doing that. It is a incredibly difficult ticket to find. I tried to go find a picture of it actually today and couldn't, but I do have, because I'm a nerd on all this stuff, I have a program from it.
I was going to say, I remember the program, and the program is awesome.
Yes. So this is one of the absolute coolest sort of programs with the president on it as it relates to baseball. So, I'm actively seeking that ticket to marry it up with my program. But so that was my fourth one.
Great.
Now we can finally maybe get to one that I have. So next up I have, here it is. My next one would be the 1950 opening day for the Senators. This one was thrown out by Harry Truman, and so you can see, I think it's, right there, opening day 1950, and all of the tickets for those Senator tickets from that era are going to look like this. What made 1950 special is Truman was ambidextrous, and so it's actually very well documented that he threw out two first pitches that day, one left-handed and one right-handed. So it's the first time a president threw a first pitch with each hand. So I haven't gotten this slabbed yet. I have the raw copy though. It will head to PSA soon to be entombed forever in their plastic.
I don't want to interrupt. I want to ask you this question very quickly.
Yeah.
What do you think, David? Just to give people who are going to watch this an idea, like something like that, a 1950 opening day Harry Truman first pitch ticket. Is that $50? Is that $150? Is that $500?
So I don't remember what I paid for mine, but one just auctioned this last week, and I lost. And I think I bid like 150, maybe 175. They can be all over the place. So, a lot of times it depends on how they're listed. Sometimes with opening day tickets, that's all it'll say, opening day. It doesn't tell you about who's throwing the first pitch or whatever. But in my opinion, those are not super rare. I see them. I see them periodically. You know, I'm a buyer all the time on things like that at $150. If you know, if this genre catches on and prices start to move up, I mean, I don't think it would be hard to move it to $300 to $500. But when you start getting in that range, to me, I mean, Harry Truman threw out a lot of first pitches.
He did, yeah.
So that one is interesting because of the factual basis of it, but he's got others too. So, you know, I think that can sort of offset the significance of them with a guy like Truman. Truman and Eisenhower were two guys, and obviously the Bush presidents, they threw tons of first pitches, so you got lots of options.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that one. The next one for me would be the 1962 opening day for the Senators. That was the first game that they played at the DC stadium, and it's also the first of 3 first pitches by President Kennedy. So I don't have that one. I actually lost one not long ago, but what I do have is the next year, the 1963. So I thought it would be fun to be able to see what it looks like, because this is a full.
Wow, that's a great one.
So you can see, you know, the tickets from that era are the originals are much bigger. They're kind of like sort of 3 sections worth. You've got, this is the one you usually find when you're looking for this stuff, but then you have that middle section and then another. So anyway, this one's definitely going to go to PSA to get slabbed up, but it's actually one I would probably sell, to be honest with you, because it sort of sticks out in my collection. I love full tickets, but I also know that other people that are trying to do the highest grade or the most complete of these things would actually appreciate this more than I would. So for any of you out there, if you're looking, here's a 1963 JFK full. You can DM me and maybe we can make a deal.
Let me ask you this, David, and not to break you up anymore. And I know you can only be on for about 30 minutes, and that's perfect. This is going great. Do you think because the president in like the 60s being Kennedy versus Johnson, does that make it more expensive, more valuable, more collectible?
It does. Because, you know, because of Kennedy's popularity just kind of around everything. Yes, his tickets are, it's interesting, like, because his tickets are quite a bit more expensive than like a Johnson. But to be honest with you, I actually think I see more Kennedys than I do Johnsons. So, you know, it's hard. It's like anything in this space though, right? It's hard sometimes to do the calculus of like popularity versus rarity, and like where do those come in balance within a particular collectible. It's hard to know.
Yep, you're right.
All right, so next up, and actually I skipped. I got to go back one.
Okay.
Because I'm supposed to be going in order. The 1955 World Series Game 1. Dwight Eisenhower threw out the first pitch, but Jackie Robinson stole home in that game, allegedly, unless you're talking to Yogi Berra, and the tape kind of tells you that maybe Yogi was right. But Jackie was credited with stealing home. So here's what a stub of that ticket looks like. This was actually my most recent acquisition, and I'll give a shout out to my guy Mike at Pangea Collectibles. We did a trade for this. He had it, knew I wanted it, knew why I wanted it, and not because of Jackie. And then I had an autographed ticket of somebody else that he'd been wanting for a long time, and so we just got together, and I was like, hey, seems like this is the moment. What do you think? And he was super happy. I was super happy. It was one of those like absolutely win-win moments in the hobby. So anyway, thank you to Mike for that. But I was super excited to add this particular ticket because it's one I've been looking for a while. All right, next up, 1979 World Series Game 7, Jimmy Carter. I think that this is it starts to get into the era of like kind of colorful, cool looking tickets, right? And there was sort of like there was a funny quote later on, I think, when Carter did first pitch, like in maybe 95 or something, or somebody made the comment to him of like, next time, make sure you get here before game 7. So it's kind of funny, like Carter was a lifetime like softball player.
Yep.
But for whatever reason he wasn't really active on the first pitch circuit. But I've always thought this is a really cool ticket. It's relatively affordable. They're out there. You can find them. So I liked this one a lot.
Yep. Agreed. Very cool.
All right. Next up, for me, this one was a tie.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 2 opening days that I feel like were a tie. The 1992 Baltimore Orioles opening day ticket. This is your first game at Camden Yards.
Yep.
I just and George H.W. Bush was your president throwing out this first pitch. These are not particularly rare, but they're pretty cool because of the cutout design at the top, and actually the back is really fantastic with the Coke thing on there. But I think this is a really underrated ticket. It's very affordable. Anybody could get a hold of one of these. But then for me, it's tied with the 2005 Nationals opening day, which was your inaugural season for the Nationals. These tickets are awesome.
They are.
They got the Capitol in the background. They tell you everything about it. Now you have to be careful with these because they did like a reprint commemorative on them, and the way to know that is the serial number here on the barcode for those reprints will be all zeros, and I think the section, row, and seat will say 10 10 10. So these are actually these are sometimes tough to find, and they're, as you can imagine, they're impossible grades because this thing will usually like crease on you.
Yeah.
But anyway, for me, that pair of opening dayers is a tie, and you had Bush 1 in Baltimore and Bush 2 in Washington.
Very, very cool.
All right, and then my last one on my top 10 list is going to be the 2001 World Series, Game 3. I mean, in our lifetimes, this is an iconic moment in a tough time during the country where your president came out and like it was maybe the only time ever that there probably wasn't a single boo for your president throwing a first pitch, right? So like for me, these things are there. And listen, these are not wildly expensive tickets. They will always run you a few $100. And there's several different versions of it, as you know. This one is a stub. The fulls have more down here. There's also box office Ticketmaster ones that are smaller, but they actually have the art on the Ticketmaster ticket. So there's a bunch of different variations of this that you can get. But like, if you wanted that one ticket in and of itself can kind of be a collection if you want it to be. But, I'm probably like you. I bid on these all the time. I'll take them anytime I can get them at prices that I think are cool, are reasonable. Just because it's such a memorable moment. And, I mean, we all as collectors, I think, like to share this stuff.
Yep.
So like, this is one that it lands on everybody's list. It's highly collectible. And if you were going to start a collection, that's the easy place to start one.
And David, I don't know if you follow it, but like on Heritage, they've had some signed ones by
Yes,
W.
yes.
They've
They've got
been
one
going
that's
for
going to
big
run
money.
this next month.
Yeah, I mean these are big
Yep.
dollar tickets. These are going for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. I mean,
Yep.
and W's not a hard autograph. I mean, I wish I was down in your neck of the woods and can track them down because I'd love to get mine signed. I don't want to pay $5,000 for one. I'd love to find mine done.
Yeah. Meet him, shake his hand.
Yeah.
So that was my top 10. I'm perfect on time. So the one other thing I was going to show you is I actually, when you said at the beginning, I forgot I was supposed to bring autographs
That's
too.
okay.
So maybe we'll do that
We'll do
another
that another
time.
time. It's a good show.
But I thought I'd show you my oldest one. So
Okay.
I have a 1925 World Series Game 3. Now, we were talking earlier about the labels and stuff. So like I bought this one and it gives you like the game stats. Senators 4, Pirates 3, October 10th, Ferguson Kramer, blah, blah, blah. So this is one, and I'm sure you've experienced this with PSA. You have to I'm gonna try and send this back in to get the flip modified, which, listen, for all of you other collectors out there, it's already slapped, okay? They're going to charge me more to redo it the way I want it, which is super dumb on my part, but that collector psychosis, it does kick in, and it will drive me bananas if I can't get this thing to say what I want. Now the good news is, right, I have others. So if you're gonna be stupid, go full stupid, because I need to get my 55 World Series corrected as well.
So that
Now, interesting fact on this stuff: the All-Star game where Griffey was the MVP, and also Ted Williams also threw out the first pitch. PSA thus far has refused to put President Bush on that ticket as throwing out the first pitch. Now, I don't know why they're putting their foot down on that one in particular, but I'm going to try one more time to see if I can get them to do it when I send a group, so that, because they clearly do understand that there's other collectors besides me doing this. Because when you go and type your stuff in and you find the ticket, you have to actually pick the one that says you're president. Otherwise, you're going to get the other stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just a
So
hot tip for any of you out there: if you're going to try and do it, like, make sure you pay attention to what you're typing in, because you could get multiple things. And PSA is not, they're not as a willing customizable flip as your guys at Beckett are. But as you've seen, I don't, I've been doing all my stuff from PSA from the beginning. I know guys like Ravel sometimes prefer Beckett because he can get on there whatever he wants on the label, but I've historically just been more comfortable with PSA. But like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter.
so that last one that you showed, that 25 World Series, that was a Calvin Coolidge first pitch.
Yeah,
So just
and I
think
think
back.
it's I think that's maybe the second World Series, second or third.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's the third.
Yeah.
The third.
So anyway, that's my oldest one, which is pretty old. And according to my list, like my three top grails are older than that. So I feel like I'm doing pretty good so far. I probably have, I would guess I have about 40 or 50 total, including a lot of my dupes. But I probably have, I should have counted it up before I came on. I probably have 20 something, somewhere between 25 and 30 different.
That's really
I
cool.
have most of the, anything past, like, I don't know, 1970, I pretty much have it. There's a couple that I don't, that are tough. Like, you'd mentioned, like, Reagan had a couple really nice ones. But one of those tickets is like completely impossible to find because it was just like a random game.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but if you like the idea, Reagan, I always tell people, if you like the idea of it, he threw the first pitch in one of the games in the '72 World Series as governor of
He did.
California.
Yep.
So I collect those two, where it just kind of makes sense based on who it is,
Yeah. I think
and the idea that I may not be able
there's
to find the one I want.
there's an
Right?
Obama Obama when he was the senator too. He threw it out for the White Sox. You know, those are all really cool.
Those are sneaky difficult tickets. People really don't know. And I like a couple of them that I've won, I got for like $10 because nobody knew what it was, and I knew.
Yeah.
So that the knowledge, the knowledge piece on tickets, and the depth of how far you're willing to go down the search hole can absolutely pay off. And you almost, I don't know about you, I've found that you have to do it. Like you always, the obvious ones you see, and so does everybody else. It's the ones that aren't obvious where like your knowledge set helps you out over others, and you can sometimes score a deal. But more and more I've found, especially in those like 1950s and 1960s ones, even if it looks like it's not obvious. I don't know who out there has been watching or that's watching now that's been outbidding me, but we're not friends right now because I like missed 4 of them. Thankfully, I had all 4. I was going for dupes on these this last week, but I was the underbidder. So enjoy your extra dollars out of your pocket, thanks to Dave at Sign and Slab.
I love it. I love it. Well, I always love your passion, Dave. It's great. You're really a tremendous gem to our collecting community.
I appreciate it.
If you don't follow David, you should. He's at Sign and Slab, always putting out great content, meaningful stuff, funny stuff. He's really a steward of the hobby. I like him very much. I hope to see you in Chicago at the National. I'm sure we'll run into each other.
We
Thanks
definitely
for wearing
will.
the hat. Thanks for coming on
Of
tonight.
course. Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Be well.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.